thank you, Kelly. I appreciate the time, and I'm looking forward to the feedback. One of the things I learned as a coach is that the more I learn, the more I know there's more to learn. So I am looking forward to tons of feedback. I also don't have an ego, so that I'm willing to take it, learn from it, and be reminded that, hey, you said you'd learn from this. Go and grab it.
All right, go for it.
Perfect. All right, Kelly. So welcome to the workshop. We're glad to have you here. It's the Double Goal Coach Workshop. And the first thing that I would do when you come in is have you signed up. We try to save paper here at PCA, so that the best way that we found to do it is with your phone. Everyone's got it. They're ubiquitous. So the first thing we want you to do is just sign in. So grab your phone, text to 650-763-2405. And then in the body of the message, put hashtag #, however we want to call it, your number, next line, first name, last name, and then your email address. Oh, thank you for the slide changer. Perfect. I'm going to drive one from my side too, so that I know I'm on the same page.
Oh, okay. You have it. You can see it there too.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect. So we want to get you signed in. And what this does is it gets you a certificate of completion, but more importantly, it gets you in the database. It allows us to share information in the future. This is not a one-time workshop. We're not just going to have you spend 60 minutes listening to a lecture and then going off and doing what you did before. What we want to do is help start a conversation. We're going to share some information and research with you today, but as importantly, we're going to get information from you and help you relate to it. What we're also going to do is send you weekly messages, conversations that you can have with your team, and we'll give you access to the PCA Dev Zone. And let's see. So let's go to the next slide. So, audience of 30 people. Raise your hand if you've been to a PCA workshop before.
I have, but I haven't.
Okay. Well, let's do this. How many of you guys are here as a first-time coach? Good. How many have coached for 3 or more years? Great. Off script for a moment, Kelly. I love your lineup of putting them around the room. Rookies, neophytes, indoctrinated, veterans, curmudgeons. Go the whole way, all the way around with that. So what sports do we have represented here today? Kelly, what do you coach?
I coach lacrosse right now, but I've also coached field hockey, basketball, and soccer, and track.
Wow, you coach everything. Perfect. And have you heard of PCA before today?
I have once, but I've never been to a workshop.
Okay, well, welcome. Let me tell you a little bit about me and about PCA. So my background is I've been coaching for over 25 years. I've been fortunate enough to work in the soccer world. I started off as a high school soccer coach right out of college. And to be 100% honest, I coached the way I was coached, and I believe yelling and screaming was the way to motivate 14 to 18-year-old young men. And I didn't like myself. So I actually backed out of coaching for a year and then got back in and started coaching again in club soccer and went to coaching school and realized that more of what they were teaching me, it was how the things were being said that changed my mentality, that positivity worked better. PCA started up in 1998 at Stanford University out of actually the business school as a nonprofit. And we've worked with over 80,000 coaches each year, 3.3 million youth, 2,500 workshops, and 1 million visits to PCA Dev Zone. I can't stress enough. You're going to hear me keep saying PCA Dev Zone is the place to go to check for a resource. It's a continuing conversation. Oh, perfect. So what does the phrase positive coaching mean to you?
I think it means that a coach that really cares about the kids and just is looking like they're enjoying themselves.
Excellent. So they're having a good time. Any of your other personalities care to weigh in?
Yeah. I think a positive coach is one that's always happy and just, everybody's a winner and, just clapping all the time. And, I don't know how many games they're going to win, but they're probably out there looking like they're having a good time.
Okay. Well, that's a little different than the way we define it, but I hear where you're coming from and I appreciate your feedback on that. What we want to do is let you know that the way we view positive coaching is creating an atmosphere that supports best possible performance. Or in New England vernacular, allowing each player to do their job. The way that we look at it is allowing each person to find their success at their best level. We believe our motto is better athletes, better people. And that's really what we're trying to get across. We believe one does not outweigh the other. So which slide are we on? Okay,
sorry. Power positive. Yep.
Power positive. So we understand more and more that positivity, and to be honest, I think we all knew this inherently, that no one liked to be yelled at.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we knew it, but now we have, go to the next slide, research-backed data, pedagogy, a background that allows you to verify what you knew in your heart. So Kelly, I stole this from you as well. I would read the gray part, and I would have the people in the room read the blue part. I think that's so powerful. So negativity doesn't work as well as positivity. Positive emotions are especially contagious, and the leader's positive emotions are more contagious than anyone else's. Or to sum it up, I have a friend who's an athletic director at a college in the Midwest, and he has a phrase that they see coming out of their athletic offices each day is that, nope, made a mistake on that one. That's coming up later. What he's got is he tells the coaches, you guys are the thermostat. You set the tone for the day, and the players reflect your emotions. We used to say in soccer, if a team's behaving badly, they probably learned it from the coach. So that you need to set the tone for them. You're not the thermometer, you're the thermostat. You set the level. And it's not just us. It's not just sports psychology that's doing it. It's the media gets it now too. The people get it. Coaching through physical and verbal aggression is just outdated. But we did it because we learned that way. It's how we were taught. So there is a bit of a inertia that we need to overcome with that. So you're saying, all right, this is great. You're talking positive. You want to do all these things. You want to be positive, better athletes, better people. But sport is about you need to win. So what we're going to do is go to elite players and coaches. The next slide, please. And if you look up here, there are World Series, NBA championships, Super Bowls, and World Cups all represented up here. If you've ever seen any of these coaches work, there was a great video last week about Steve Kerr talking, and he was just effusive in his praise, but demanding in his requests for Steph Curry. He was saying, I love when you take the shot because this is when you're going to make it. I love that you embrace the pressure. And I thought, he really lives it. He really lives it. And if you watch Brad Stevens, I don't think I've ever seen the guy phased. I think he's been up and down the sideline. Good shot, next ball. Bad shot, next ball. He's always in the moment and talking about the big ideas. Next slide. Yep. Negativity. These two gentlemen are leaders in sports psychology, specifically in the baseball world, and they have pointed out that it does distract you from your task. It takes you out of what's important. So, Kelly and anyone else, do you agree? Does positive work better? Does negativity distract?
I believe that negativity distracts. I believe sometimes negativity works, to be honest with you. I think sometimes when my players aren't paying attention or they're fooling around, if I yell, they'll jump. I mean, if I jump, they say how high, and sometimes I think they need to be shaken up a little bit. I think overall positivity is probably the better way to go, but I think sometimes I need to yell at them to get them to move and take me seriously.
Okay, well, we can talk through that, and hopefully we can come to a conclusion. Ruben, welcome. We're glad to have you here. Ruben,
Thank you.
Do you agree that positive works better and negativity distracts?
Yes.
Okay. Can you give me a little more as to why? I caught you early, I know.
Yes, it is. I just think that my experience is that the athletes respond better to positive, and they're not trying to make mistakes. So why beat them up for a mistake? They're probably already beating themselves up, stuff like that.
Okay. Perfect.
I believe in treating people with dignity and respect, and so I think that's the way to go.
Excellent. Thank you guys both for your feedback. Ruben, Kelly's playing the part of several different people until you arrive. So I appreciate you coming in and giving a West Coast voice with that. So guys, if we agree with that, and we know in our heart that treating people well and treating people the way we want to be treated, then why is there so much negativity in youth sports? What are the reasons that this is happening?
I think people.
Yeah, go ahead, Ruben.
I think people get frustrated. I think they want to win, and when a game is played, half the teams are going to win, half of them are going to lose. People don't like losing. I think people put a lot of work into sports, and when a call goes against them that seems to take away from all the work that they've put in, it feels unfair. you get mad.
Mm-hmm. Right on, right on. Thank you. Kelly, anything?
I just think, as you said before, you just coach the way you were coached. And I think most of us were coached very negatively. That's what my coach did. And so when I started out coaching, that's what I knew how to do. That's how you get action.
Yep. And I actually had conversations with my high school coach years and years later about that. And he said, you know, if I had to do it over again, I would have been a little bit different. He said, but it worked at the time with that. What it did for a lot of us was make us frightened of making mistakes, because we knew that if we made a mistake, we'd be out. And we want people to be free. We want them to play a little bit more. So with that wave of inertia that we have to overcome, the way I was coached for the past, I can't say 25 years ago anymore, because I've been coaching 25 years. You know, it's not the same as when it was the 70s or the 50s or the Junction Boys with Bear Bryant. That's a very different time than now. So Kelly, can we go to the next slide? At PCA, we have a vision backed up by sports psychology, backed up by pedagogy, backed up by best practices of coaches that really talk about better athletes, better people. I'm going to go off a little bit here in that when I first got back into coaching, I went back through coaching schools. I went through U.S. soccer coaching schools. I went through NSCAA coaching schools. And we spent so much time on the technique and the tactics. And we brushed lightly on the fitness, but the fourth pillar, the mentality, was maybe an hour session in a week-long course. And then more importantly, as you develop as a coach, you realize when you're first at these coaching schools, you start watching first where they put the cones and how far apart they are and what the drill is they're trying to do. And after 20 years, I start going, yeah, I get the drill. What I want to hear is, how is that coach communicating to the player what they want? Are they clear? You can be demanding. You can ask for better play. You just need to couch it in a way that encourages the player to try new things and go outside of their comfort zone. So that's creating the best environment, better athletes, better people. Any questions?
Nope.
Building on that, we're going to give you the tools to continue. We know that it's not just, we don't want you to come in and spend 90 minutes and go, yeah, I talked about some good things and I didn't do anything with it. And I have a brand new book, but the binding is still good. When I see you at the end of the spring, I'm hoping that this book is dog-eared, highlighted, colored, drawn on, all of that, because this is a basic palette of crayons. You can do anything with it. You have 8 colors. You can draw any picture you want with that. So what we want you to do is use the resources. We'll give you ongoing support. Weekly talking points will be emailed to you. PCA Dev Zone. I've been having fun with it, trying to go through and find issues that I've dealt with. I'm like, yep, there's a write-up about it. Yep, there's a write-up about it. So if there is something, look it up. You're not alone. There's a whole community of people who are trying to do it right. We want you to be aware of that. All right, pair share. I'm so glad I have 2 people in the room right now. So what makes a great youth sports experience for kids? If you guys could pair share, that would be great. So what did we come up with? You guys are like the Brady Bunch.
We are. We're good at this. We're good at this.
You've done this hundreds of times.
We have. So
I said getting to experience exciting competitions.
Right. Yes. Competing is why we play sports. What else?
We just said fun. We coach little guys like U10, and we just want to make sure they're having fun.
Yep. So we're not paid to win at youth sports, Kelly? You don't
not
have
quite.
To...
No, not quite at that age.
No. Okay. Going back to our PCA advisory board, those people are paid to win, and yet they still use the practices and the techniques that we're talking about. So they are having success with it. Anyone else want to weigh in?
Yeah, learning new things, learning how to play.
Right.
Getting better at the sport.
Yep. That's
growing, progressing.
Growing, progressing, maybe doing things you couldn't do at the beginning of the season. You know, there's no moment that keeps you more in sport when a player realizes that you invested in them. You tried to teach them something that took them 8, 10, 12 weeks to do, and they do it. And we've all experienced this. The player looks at you and says, you knew I could do this before I did. And you go, well, I'm in coaching for the next 10 years after that point, because those little moments, the first time a player chips a ball over a wall, the first time someone lifts a puck over a goalie, the first time, Kelly in lacrosse, someone fakes high and shoots low. You know, those are big deals, and they do it, and they go, wow, this works, and you knew I could do this before I did. And you go, I'm in. This is the moment that's about. So what we found in the meaningful athlete experience that our research shows that what you guys have discussed, feeling connected to the coach, believing that they can improve, and feeling proud about acting with integrity. So, yep, we'll go on to the next slide. So we address that in our coaching model of being connected through the emotional tank. Is it empty? Is it full? Improving the elm tree of mastery and integrity, honoring the game. And we will spend time in each section after this going over each of these. So let's say if we do these things, what may happen to these players? If we get the players feeling connected, if we get them feeling improving, if we get them feeling integrity in the game, what are some things that can happen with the player?
I think they'll keep playing. They'll play longer.
They'll play longer, and I think they'll play better.
Mm-hmm.
They will. They will. Those are great points. Anything else?
They might want to come back. Like playing longer, I guess, ties into wanting to come back and play again the following season.
Yeah, I was just going to say, my daughter's a freshman this year at the high school, and I would say half of her middle school lacrosse team is not playing this year as high schoolers. And they're good players. They're good kids. They're great players, good athletes. And they just had their first meeting yesterday, and I saw a lot of them, and they said, "Now I'm going to run track." They said, "I'm done with lacrosse. It's not fun." And I was like, it was killing me.
Right. And being a coach on the women's side in lacrosse, it breaks your heart. You're like, no, we want you to try. We're starting to polish a diamond at this point. You've done a lot of the basic work. We want you to play because you love it. Mm-hmm. And if they come back, they get better. If they get better, they enjoy the game. If they enjoy the game, they come back. See the circle? They enjoy the game. And
then my daughter's discouraged because her friends aren't on the team anymore. So she's like, "Mom, they're like 3 of my closest friends and they're not playing." So now she's got to play without her friends, which stinks.
Oh, I feel for you. Having a daughter who's a senior, I get it. Going into her last season of lacrosse, and I'm looking forward to it, and my heart is breaking that she won't play again, maybe till club in college with that. Thanks, guys, for your feedback. I do appreciate it. Before we go into the Herman Edwards slide, I want to add something in. I want you to think about why you got into coaching in the first place. What was the first thing? What were the reasons that you go? And it can be as simple as, I missed the meeting, was named an assistant coach, and next thing I knew, I had a bag of balls and cones, and I was made the head coach. Or it's, I played collegiate sports. Kelly's played every collegiate sport. I played collegiate sports, so I want to be able to share what I've learned. What are your reasons for getting into coaching?
My first coaching job was opportunity. I did not play basketball in college, and I had an opportunity to coach basketball, and I was really excited to get back in the gym because I really did love basketball. So that was my first. Yeah, but my volunteer coaching opportunity was literally like out of necessity. If we don't have a coach, your kids can't play. There's not going to be a team. So here's a whistle and a bag of balls. Learn how to play soccer.
What age were your kids?
6.
It doesn't look a lot like soccer at that age.
No, it did not.
No. Ruben, how did you get into coaching?
I was in 6th grade hanging out at the boys club, and the director, Sal, said, "Hey, your little brother's in 3rd grade. He's playing in the 3rd grade league. How about if you coach a team?" And I said, "Absolutely." It just seemed like fun, and another way. I was already playing and refereeing, and it's another way to get involved. And that's how I got started.
So I noticed neither of you got in it to become angry at children.
No.
We want to give them a good memory. So let's look at the Herman Edwards slide. Philadelphia legend, shut down the Giants, Herman Edwards.
Woohoo. Do you want me to show the video, or do you want me to skip through it?
No, we can skip through it. We've all seen it.
Okay.
But I get the hair on the back of my neck stands up each time because he's such a powerful speaker, isn't he?
He is. I do a pretty good Herman impression.
I will ask to see that another time.
You'll have to. It's a special moment. Go ahead.
All right. So Herman Edwards asks a pretty impressive question. In the book of life, what do you want these people to be saying about you at the end of that? And what a huge question. Well, let's say that you made a difference. If your players come back years later, what will they say about you? I have a friend who told a story about her field hockey team, and she talked about how the coach, they won state champions, and they went back years later with the coach to retire, and she was the captain of the state championship team, And she had to organize a tribute supper. And it was rather difficult because the players did not have great memories of that. And you say, oh my God, this person's invested their life in the sport. And this is not how probably any of us want to be remembered. Yeah, we had some success, but more importantly, we want to talk about making a difference in a kid's life with that. So pair share, there you go. I want to see, what do you want people to be saying about you at your, I'm always leery talking about legacy because it sometimes gives the belief that you're giving up setting it. So, but what would you want people to say about you as a volleyball coach, as a lacrosse coach, as a soccer coach, as a basketball coach?
I'd like them to say that I cared about them as people, that I really invested time into getting to know them, and I cared about them as people more than the game.
Perfect. What else?
I'd like them to say that I was a hard worker, a good teacher, and a good competitor.
That's a great point, Ruben. I like that one, that as a coach, you want to be known as a hard worker. And that goes back to the thermostat quote that we had earlier, is that if you're working hard, they're going to work hard. We know here, I knew that in coaching, when I first started coaching women's lacrosse, which was a switch for me about 12 years ago, that I had to learn the game. I knew the men's game, but I had to learn the women's game because I got thrown in as a varsity assistant coach, starting with goalkeepers first. And I said, I need to have my act together because I can't pretend with these girls. They're owed better than this. So it caused me to go to, this is not anything that I knew about at the time, Janine Tucker's clinics, where I learned so much about the X's and O's of the game, but got to see her methodology and speaking style and stole so much from Janine Tucker. Just because the way she communicated, the way she was demanding and encouraging at the same time really made a difference to me. So next slide, please. So we want to be able to get both of our double goal coach model talks about striving to win, which is important, which is also part of the win at all cost coach, but also teaching life lessons through sport. So here, last pair share of the day, guys. What life lessons can be taught in sport? What are we hoping that they learn, or what did you learn in sport?
Life lessons I learned in sports. Is that the question?
Yeah. Sure.
Teamwork, bouncing back from failure, dealing with pressure.
I learned time management, how to get things done when they need to get done and not procrastinate. I think that was really helpful that sports taught me.
I love it. Thank you. Ruben, can I ask you to just go, teamwork's a great phrase, but it has an amorphous meaning sometimes. So can you give just a brief example of it?
Yeah. Back in high school, we had a football player join a very good volleyball team in his senior year, and he'd never played before. And a lot of us wondered why the coach even took him on the team, because his skills couldn't match the rest of us. And by the end of the year, we realized why the coach took him on the team, because this guy worked so hard. He was inspirational. He was supportive. He brought joy to the gym. He playing very little in matches. He was a huge part of a championship team.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. I do appreciate it. And I'm sure we could go on and on about the lessons we learned through sport. So what we want to point out is that the goals of striving to win and teaching life lessons are not mutually exclusive. The win at all cost coach may be able to make cuts somewhere through a teaching a life lesson, whereas the double goal coach were not. Last question for you. Can we think of a time where these goals could come into conflict? Because they may.
Yeah, I have a couple times. The best girl on my team last year was the most obnoxious. She was rude. She would yell. She would throw her stick, and she was 10 years old. And
what sport was this?
Lacrosse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was rough. And she had 3 older brothers. They all played football. So I think she should have been on the football field. But there were many, many times. She also was the spark plug. I mean, I'd put her in and she'd make things happen. And she would pass the ball. She wasn't like a ball hog, but she was awful. If any of the girls missed the ball, she would scream at them and yell at them. But she was pretty much one of the only girls that could score. So it was tough. I took her out a lot for behavior, and a lot of the parents were on my back about it.
Okay. And then maybe afterwards we can talk about what you did to let her learn from that and get her back into the game afterwards. How could she fix those behaviors with that? Ruben, anything from you? How these goals can conflict?
Well, I was an NCAA coach for many years, and there were ways I could have gotten an advantage by breaking rules and but but it wouldn't be teaching the right life lesson. It wouldn't be doing the right thing. So I think, and quite honestly, I think it's a huge problem in college sports. It remains a big problem
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's a great point. And another one would be your best player skips school that day, cuts class, or is caught out after curfew or something like that. How do you deal with that? And a double goal coach will not give the striving to win the advantage over the teaching the life lessons, even if it's equal. They'll say, no, I'm going to teach the life lesson, the valid lesson with that. And then to do that, we'll teach you. We'll move on to the next slide, and we'll talk about these 3 principles, and we'll roll into filling the emotional tank. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks, John.
Thanks.
How'd you feel rolling through it?
It went longer than I had practiced.
Yeah, usually does. Because you didn't have our answers in practice.
And I went, oh. So I can boil it down, I'm sure.
It even goes longer when you're in with 30 people, because you've got, you were just asking like Ruben and I, but if you ask 3 people, that's a lot of times when we do our demos, we don't have the answers. We don't pause for a lot of the answers. So when we time ourselves, it's like, oh, I can do this in 10 minutes. No, I thought you did great. I thought you seemed very well prepared, very, very smooth. What part did you like doing the best, John? Which part did you feel most comfortable with?
I will have to think on that, because right now it was a focused blur for me. I was in the zone, and I could see your 2 faces. And if I were an audience, I would look around. You'll also know about me that I can't sit down and do these things. I have a little bit of energy. When I ran track, I always had to bounce. I needed to do things. So
Are you standing right now?
I'm standing up. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yep. But I felt like I tried to give too much information. I felt like I did the fire hose and the funnel approach at times, and I need to boil it down.
Yeah, that's good advice for yourself. I don't think that and I'm going to let Ruben give you some feedback too. I don't think just overall you seemed rushed. I thought your pace seemed relaxed. You were very comfortable with the material. I didn't feel like you were, shoving information down my throat. I think the simplifying of some of the explanations, you'll learn over the course of a 90-minute workshop where to put some of those stories in. I know this is your first one and you want to give us all the great stories, which I love. But when you do it for real, you'll sprinkle some of those stories, maybe see where they fit in other places, or, that'll work out. That'll work out with the rest of the workshop.
Kelly, can I jump in right there, because it's it's the one I was trying to think of a suggestion to make to John, and so because you guys have hit on it, I'll lead with it. In terms of cutting it down, making it a little more concise, covering certain pieces in fewer words. Two places to do that. They're related. One is when you ask a question, you don't necessarily have to give a sample answer. You don't. There's times where you might need to, but usually you don't. So ask the question, let us answer without giving an example in many cases, and then along the same lines, when you ask a question and we've answered, if we've given reasonable responses, then you don't necessarily have to add. You don't necessarily have to add to it, and oftentimes I think it's more powerful, and we as participants feel better when you don't add to it. Our responses were good, solid responses, and we're moving forward. So, does that make sense?
It does. I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
So
okay.
This is recorded too, John. So you can always go back and watch our feedback later if you don't want to write stuff down. Ruben, did you want to keep going?
Yeah, so many strengths, John. Like Kelly said, I thought you were prepared. I thought you had a good grasp of the content and the flow. I think you had a good feel for the slides and what was coming next. Thought your style in the audition that we talk about how in the audition we want you to be professional but not overly serious. I thought you struck a very nice balance there. Professional, but you were having fun. You were at ease. You were natural, comfortable, conversational. All those things. One of the pieces that really resonated with me. I haven't heard a coach say it quite this way. So you didn't get into coaching to be angry with children. And I go, yeah, I certainly did not. That's certainly not why I got into it. So, I liked your tribute story example. I thought it made a very good point in a concise way. It's the kind of story I really like because the point is clear and it doesn't take a lot of time to share it.
That was stolen from the woman on your left.
Oh.
Well, there's a lot of things I like about what Kelly does in workshops, and I've learned a lot from her too. So good job of borrowing that.
That was so powerful when Kelly told that at the soccer convention. I went, oh my God, this poor person, who's in her career. Yes. And I could see it in your face that you're like, no, we did so much here. And it was, I wasn't sure if that was a good one or not. But I'm glad that it resonated.
Yeah, so it resonated with me. One last thing, I liked how you took a moment and had us explore the life lessons opportunities. I thought that was again a good exploration, but not overly over exploration. So congratulations, John.
Well, thank you, Ruben. Sorry to put you on the spot that early with the teamwork question. I was like,
no, it's good.
I'm always afraid when people throw out jargon that they say it because they've read it somewhere in an article that day, and they haven't delved back into it a little bit and really understand the point that they're trying to make.
And they're also going to give you what you want to hear. If you ask them, what does positive coaching mean? You're going to get most of the answers are going to be exactly what you want to hear. Every once in a while, you'll get a stickler. John got to come to the soccer workshop that I did in Philadelphia, and he got to see a nice stickler who was being a real bugger about integrity and honoring the game. And he did not think they were the same. And there was a room of 100 coaches, and he was not letting it go. So, you've just got to prepare yourself that there's going to be one of those. But in terms of that too, push back if you think there's, and I thought that was great. That's exactly, I call it that challenging. We want you to challenge the coaches. So
I loved when you did that at the speaker because you worked with them a little bit and then you realized there was no middle ground. It wasn't going to happen, and your face changed. And you said, "Great, we can wordsmith it afterwards. Find me right afterwards. I'll be right up here." And it worked out great. And he never showed up.
Yeah,
but
he never came back to challenge.
You were very clear on. Of course, we can discuss that later. I would be glad to. So well done.
Well, thank you. Thank you. As I never let him see a sweat, right? I was like, oh, buddy, would you shut up and just let me go? But it's good. I mean, there's always one. So I thought that was great. John, we were talking before this about lines that stick with you, and you had a lot of them. I always write down notes and then I highlight lines that stick with me that are the ones I'm either going to steal or borrow. And you had a few. The one thing is, I think like the thermostat versus thermometer, you don't always have to give credit to somebody else. Like, I know you were doing it for my sake, but you don't have to. Just pull it off as if it were your own. Kevin Vest, if he comes to a workshop of yours, you can give him credit, but otherwise, otherwise just, sometimes it's good to give credit, but other times I would just keep going. I thought, first of all, I think I agree with Ruben. I think you're professional and your sense of humor was great, which makes you very relatable. And I like that right off the bat. Ruben missed the beginning, but right off the bat saying that my first year of coaching, I screamed and yelled because that's what I knew. I took a year off to educate myself. And here's what I learned. And I also liked that you also said that you went to these coaching schools and there was 1 hour to teach communication in the mental game and 1 week of skills and drills and techniques. And I think that's a really good point to make up, that you can have the best skills and drills and techniques. And if you don't know how to communicate it to the athletes, it's not going to get you anywhere. So I thought that was really powerful as well. One of my favorite parts that I like was when you were talking about the video of Steve Kerr. what a great segue right from the National Advisory Board. And anytime we find videos, we have a resource of approved workshop videos to use. But if you ever find a snippet like that and you think it would be powerful to use that in your workshop, we can convert it into an MP4 for you and you can put it in your workshop. Okay. So if that's something, because I thought that was great. He mentioned a video of Steve Kerr and he was actually practicing what he preached and he was talking to Steph Curry. And the only other thing I'm going to add to that is, especially you being on the East Coast, I would assume that most people would know who Steph Curry and Steve Kerr are, but just in case they don't, always just name drop, Steve Kerr, coach of the Golden State Warriors, champions last year, just a real quick little, so they know what sport you're talking about and who you're talking about. Okay. And again, Brad Stevens, same thing, just add a little blurb, because your story kind of loses credibility if they don't have a clue who Brad Stevens is. So
great point. Right.
Throw that in there. But I do like how you said, they're really looking at the big ideas. You didn't say it at the same time, but I'm going to connect it to this as well. When you were talking about, I wasn't getting paid to coach that way. I really never thought about the fact, and I thought it was a great line that you said about the National Advisory Board members are paid and they still use positivity. I thought that was a really strong point that I've never really heard somebody say that before, because if you think about I've heard a lot of trainers talk about their jobs on the line. They're going to get fired if they don't win. Well, if my job was on the line, I'm going to find the most effective way possible to coach. And they're using positivity. So, your volunteer coaches coaching Little League baseball, if it works for them, it can work for you. So I just thought that was a really powerful line as well. Also bringing in, you brought in really early that all that my coach yelling at me did was make me frightened to make mistakes. It was a really quick line that you said, but it's great to throw that in the intro because you're going to come back to that when you get to mastery. So I think that was a great little teaser almost to throw in there. Like, that's what my coach yelled at me. Made me afraid to make mistakes. That's all. So I thought that was really good as well. Couple other things. What else did I have down here? Oh, I agree with Ruben. None of you got into coaching to get angry at children. I think that's a keeper. That's definitely one that I may steal because I thought that was awesome. I like your stories. I think you did a nice job at sprinkling in personal stories. I would almost ask that maybe, I think you threw in 4 personal stories, maybe throw in 2 of yours and get 2 from other people in the group. You did a nice job at the end asking Ruben to come up with a story, like why. And when you get a coach to share a story like Ruben did, that just illustrated the teamwork aspect. It reinforced what you were saying. You didn't have to share the story. And now Ruben's got his tank filled and other people in the group feel like, wow, my stories matter too. So next time he asks, I'm going to start thinking. And they're all of a sudden, as soon as Ruben said that story, started thinking about, oh my gosh, I had a girl on my team that was a terrible player, but she was an awesome teammate. It made me start thinking and making connections. And because you are being a great facilitator, it's not your story. It doesn't have to be. So that's what we talk about, the difference between a facilitator and a teacher, because you've just pulled a story out of Ruben that just made the workshop better. And I think that was really great, the way that you did that.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other comment is come up with another way to interact besides pair share. Pair share gets old after a while. I'd say maybe a pair share in each section, but I don't know if I brought out the ball, like toss the ball around or shout it out, popcorn, shout it out, the life lessons. Cause sometimes your answers can just be quick, one word, and I think you saw me do it at the workshop, just pop around the room and just hear them and call them out. And in a group of, 30 to 40 coaches, I'm sure you'd do that. But a lot of trainers rely on pair share over and over and over again. And the coaches find the same person to pair share with every time. So even if you're going to do pair share, I always think visually that if you're in a workshop and everybody's sitting in rows, they've got 5 different people they can pair share with. They've got, one in front, one behind, one side, one other side, one diagonal. So even if you don't want them to get up and move, they can still find a different person to pair share with. So,
and I meant to steal that from you because you did that, and I actually met the woman in front of me who's from a town next door, and I'm going to help her out.
Yeah, I like to do in front of and behind because you don't sit in front of your best friend; you sit next to them. So find somebody in front of or behind you. Yeah, and you didn't fall for the most new trainers fall for the turn to your left and share, and then you've got everybody turning to their left, which you did not do. So thank you. Thank you for not doing that. That's one of our favorite comments. The other thing, when you're talking about learning from Janine Tucker, put a plug in there that she's on our National Advisory Board, because I think that's important to know that somebody that you learned from back then, you didn't know she was a National Advisory Board member for Positive Coaching Alliance, but now you do. So, and you could even say, coincidentally, she's also another one of our National Advisory Board members that you might not have mentioned on the slides when you showed it at first. Yeah, John, I think I thought you did a great job. Very, very strong. I'm excited. You can tell you did your homework and were well prepared. And I could tell that by some of your, calls and questions that you had for me. So I really appreciate it. I think it's awesome. And I'm excited to see you go out and do it again.
Thank you for the feedback. And I appreciate the detail on that too, because it gives me specific things that I can work on. Ruben, thank you for your feedback as well.
So I give you an opportunity to do 2 more if you choose. Really, the next step, the intro to the workshop is something I have everybody do. And then the final is the last step before I send you out to a live workshop, and you can choose any principle you want to. I had people about a year ago say, can I do 1 more? So that's when I changed it to 3 demos instead of just 2. We used to just do the intro and the final. So it's up to you. If you want to do another principle first as practice before you do a final. For the final one, I will have Chris and Beth and maybe Leanne and Joe, some people from your local chapter so that they can get to know you. So if you want to do another practice run before I invite all of them in, that's fine.
Okay, cool.
Let me know whenever you're ready. And you can pick any principle that you want to. The honoring the game principle, if you do that one, I'm going to have you do from that all the way to the end. So I would see the closing of the workshop also.
Okay, good.
You could do E-Tank or Elm Tree Mastery, whichever one.
Yep. No, I'll take it on. I'll give each of them a try because I'll have to do all of them at some point. So let me walk through them and see if I can't reduce the time on that.
Yeah. I think you're not going to have trouble with that at all. And again, I think, it's just being aware of timing. And sometimes that's the hardest part of all is as long as, and I hate to keep looking at my watch, but just as soon as you get in there, look at a clock and just think of it as 15-minute chunks. And, and I've even had timekeepers for my athlete workshops. I had, hey, who wants to be my timekeeper? You'll get 50 hands up because they want to get out of there as soon as they can. So I just have somebody in the front row every 15 minutes. You need to give me a holler, and they do. They'll keep you on task. So
perfect.
Well, all right. Thanks, John.
Appreciate it, Kelly. Thank you.
Yep. Have a great weekend. I'll send you this link so that you can watch yourself back if you'd like.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.